Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Bloom, Group Publisher of Roofing Contractor, and welcome to a very special episode of our Best of Success podcast show for Roofing Supply Pro. It's always an honor to have with me John DeRosa with SRS. John, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, John, I always enjoy our conversations because, I've said over the years to Greg, my husband, when it comes to distribution, it's really truly amazing to me. There's so many tools that distribution offers to contractors. And I've always had this thought in the back of my mind that sometimes it's just underutilized and maybe even undervalued because there's just so much. So like, where do you start? How does it happen? But, and I love what we talk about when it comes to all the coaching you do. And one of the things we were just talking about is just the need. And what's making your phone ring? What are you coaching on right now? And how do we dive into the top three things, the need that, how do you sell the need?
It's kind of funny, right? Because you said those tools and stuff are like underutilized and maybe undervalued. And I think that the key thing that you said was you said undervalued. I think the undervalued is the reasons why they're underutilized. I mean, look, all the tools that are out in the marketplace today, whether it's a tool that's been provided by distribution or some of the connections we've made with great companies like Eagle View and some of the CRM programs that are out there today. The reasons why those tools are underutilized, I believe, is because sales reps do a really poor job of selling the value of those tools. And you hit the nail on the head when you said need. And just to clarify, right? I mean, I would define total value as the need plus the perceived value of whatever it is that you're offering them. The challenge with distribution sales is that we as salespeople are literally, and I'm not meaning to suggest that it's easy because it's challenging, right, to get a contractor to break his loyalty and then buy from us. But the reality of the situation is this: the need is already established. So if I'm going out and I'm trying to convince a contractor to buy from me, I'm not selling him on the idea that he needs to use Owens Corning shingles because he's already buying Owens Corning shingles from somebody else. What I'm going to sell them on is the perceived value of doing business with me, which is how great things are going to be and the experience that we provide. So when we're out there selling digital tools or we're out there trying to convince contractors to benefit from, some of the integration partners we have out there, more often than not, the sales rep is relying on the perceived value of those tools and not focusing on how that particular tool is going to solve a problem for the customer. We're not speaking to the need. So I might open my computer or my iPhone and say, hey, check this out. Look at how easy it is. Look at how functional this tool is. Can't you see that? Isn't it easy?
And I think they see that, right, John? I mean, there's no doubt. I think contractors see that. And it's part of it is just adopting it, right? It's change. Sometimes it's a big change.
Well, and the reality is every person listening to this, I don't care what company you're with, we've all been in those situations where we're trying to show them the ease of use and the contractor comes back and says, wow, yeah, that does look pretty cool. I just don't need it, or I just won't use it. And that should be a clear sign to the salesperson. If you're accountable, the contractor doesn't see a need for the tool, not because the tool is weak, right? But because I didn't establish a need for that tool. And one of the things that I think is interesting about the really amazing, relationships that we've developed with customers over the years is they tell us a lot of things. And I just wonder, like, how often is the sales rep really listening? They tell us their problems. They tell us their difficulties. They tell us their dissatisfactions. And what we really need to do is we need to listen to that. And, I always like to use the phrase stay curious longer, is to ask questions about those issues, to really try to take a deep dive into exactly what's happening and most importantly, what the true cost of that problem is. Because I don't think people fix small problems, right? We fix really big ones.
Sure,
Might have started as a small problem, but if the sales rep is successful in asking the right question, we can help the contractor really come to terms with the fact that this little inconvenience is probably a much bigger deal that requires our attention. And then, oh, by the way, we've got this great technology here that can help you with that.
Well, let's simplify that, John. What would you say were the top, if I'm a salesperson in distribution that's listening to this, what are the top three things that I should focus on to try to help them understand the need?
Number one, as a salesperson, you need to be accountable to you being an expert on the product that you're selling. And I would suggest being an expert doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to open it and log in and move around the app or the tool or whatever it is you're selling. I think you need to be an expert where you need to understand how, not necessarily what the product does, but how what it does represents an advantage for the customer. What are the ways that the contractor or the customer can really benefit from that tool? Now
Right.
that I've got expert status, what I then need to do is I need to be prepared to ask really powerful, sort of emotionally engaging questions that speak to the business driver of the customer. I need to, if I could figure out that my tool can solve all these problems, well,
Hmm.
then doesn't it make sense for me to
Yeah.
ask questions to see if those problems exist?
Right.
And then the third thing is if we do realize that they have those problems, and if the contractor says, yeah, that's a nightmare for me, you need to hit the pause button and stay curious longer. I mean, they're going to say, yeah, it exists. I have that issue. And I'm going to start asking questions about the effect that those problems are having on their business, their productivity, their profitability, all the things that are really important to the customer. Because the more I can help the contractor explore the cost of that problem, the greater the perceived value of the solution is when I'm actually get to the point where I can sell that.
Right.
And
Okay. I
there,
think we skipped number two. So wait, number
oh
one was
yes,
the need.
number
Number
one, be an expert.
be an expert.
Number two is learn to ask questions to see if those problems exist.
There you go.
And then number three was to, ask once we identify the problem, hit that pause button and start to ask questions about the impact that that problem has on the business or on the contractor or on whatever it is that the
Yeah.
contractors. I mean, it's a simple question. It's like, hey, how does that affect the profitability of the project, or how does that affect your ability to manage your business
Hmm.
effectively? And here's the other thing too, gentlemen. It's kind of a secret, but little extra hint,
Ooh, we like
right?
secrets. Yes.
Is when we do get to the point where the contractor is telling us with great detail, this is a nightmare. I need to fix this. I would still suggest the rep again hit the brakes. Don't rush in to solve the problem, but then ask the contractor if you were able to fix that, if you didn't have to deal with those issues anymore, how would that help you?
Hmm.
Now it seems like a stupid question, right?
No, it's great.
When because they've already told us all the problems that are having any impact of the problem. But the reality is I want to ask the customer to tell me from their perspective what the value would be of fixing that. Because when they tell me that, what they're also telling me is the cost of them not moving forward with me.
Sure.
Make sense?
Well,
Because
sure.
there's
And they may
always
already be great customers. And how are you continue to build that relationship, right? It's not always about getting to switch, but how are you being the expert? Like you're saying, how do you be the expert with with your customer so they always come back to you?
Yeah, and I think it's about having those great conversations. I've often tried to challenge salespeople to think, is the value of your conversation, is it so significant? Is it so valuable to the contractor that they would consider paying for those conversations?
Hmm.
And I know that that's sort of unrealistic. We would ever charge somebody for a conversation, but reality is, are you bringing that type of value to them? And the reason why I would also suggest that you just ask that question about what would be the benefit if you were able to fix that is because we all know that there's always some roadblock that gets in the way of us adopting that new tool or taking that next step. And they might say, well, I'm really busy, or I really don't have the time, or maybe I should do it next year. And then what I could ask the customer to do is to really measure the time issue or the I can't do this today objection against the value that they told me they were going to get by fixing it. Hey, look, I know now's not a good time. I understand you got a lot going on, but I'm just wondering, like, how does that compare to all the benefits that we just talked about?
Sure.
And now what we're doing is we're really holding the customer accountable, not because it's in my best interest to do it, but because I care about the customer so much so that I want them to be able to take advantage of and gain all the benefits that we just talked about.
Well, sure. Yeah, there's so much. Like I said, distribution, I know you guys offer so much. And it's
Yeah.
great for all of you guys to keep talking about all those benefits and features and just services that you guys offer. which is
Yeah,
awesome.
and again, Jill, I mean, we can maybe wrap up with this. I would just encourage salespeople that you need to understand that the skills that you've used to convert business and to develop relationships that have made you wildly successful in our industry, that those are not the same skills required to get people to adopt the technology and the tools that you're trying to sell them on, for one reason and one reason only, is when you're selling our products and your company, you're not establishing the need. The need already exists.
Sure.
Contractor already needs a distributor. They already need the products that are being delivered on your truck. So at that point, we just really need to focus on, let's talk about the value of doing business with us. Let's sell the perceived value. When you're
Yeah.
selling the other stuff, you've got to be prepared to ask really good questions, be the expert, understand how it affects the business, and then build the problem into a need, make it a problem worth solving, and then you've got a solution. It's going to allow you and them to have a much better relationship, more productive
Yeah, and I
relationship.
love what you said earlier, John, too, about stay curious. Kind of
Yeah.
almost reminds me of like, what is that commercial, that beer commercial, Dos Equis? Stay thirsty, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay curious, my friend.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, right, those curious conversations, you
Yep.
might not get the outcome that you want. You might not get them to sign up with your new tool, or you might not get them to buy from you. But I'll promise you one thing, they're going to value the conversation, and you will have, just on the basis of that conversation, differentiated you from a lot of the other sales reps out there. The door will always be open for you to come in because the
Yeah.
conversation was so
They
productive.
know you're going to offer value. I love
Yep.
it. Well, thanks so much, John. If anybody has any questions, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Just email me, jderosa@srsdistribution.com, and we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
I love it. Thanks. And if anybody has any questions for us, it is roofingcontractor.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content, especially sign up for our e-newsletters, sign up to for all the content on our website, follow us on all our social media channels so you can stay up to date and all the great content we're putting together, especially all the great nuggets of information with John. But most importantly, stay safe and healthy. And we can't wait to talk to you soon. As always, thanks so much, John.
Thank you.